Tai-Ho Kim wiped sweat from his forehead as he stared at the strange ship floating in the darkness of space. He had been working as a mechanic for the Seoul Orbital Reclamation Company for 5 years now. His job was simple: find broken ships, fix what he could, and bring back valuable parts. But this ship was different. "Control, this is Salvage Unit 17, Tai-Ho said into his radio. "I found something strange near Saturn's rings." "Describe it," a bored voice answered. "It's a ship, but not like any I've seen before. About 50 meters long. No markings I recognize. It's just drifting. Wait for backup, Kim. Company rules." Tai-Ho looked at the ship again. Its hull shimmered with an odd purple-green color. Parts of it seemed to be made of metal, but other sections looked almost like they were growing, like plants or coral. He should wait. That was the smart thing to do. But Tai-Ho had always trusted his gut, and right now his gut was telling him to take a closer look. "Control, there might be people who need help in there. I'm going to check." "Kim, don't." Tai-Ho turned off his radio. He would deal with the trouble later. He guided his small workship closer to the strange vessel. Up close, the ship looked even more unusual. The hull had patterns that seemed to pulse slightly, like a heartbeat. There was a large opening on one side that looked like it might have been damaged in a fight. Tai-Ho put on his spacesuit and checked his tools. He had his repair kit, a flashlight, and a small laser cutter. He took a deep breath and pushed off from his ship. Floating through space toward the alien vessel, Tai-Ho felt both excited and afraid. In all his years of salvage work, he had never broken the rules like this. But something about this ship pulled at him, like it was calling for help. When he reached the opening in the hull, Tai-Ho turned on his suit lights and looked inside. The interior was dark, with only faint emergency lights glowing along what seemed to be a corridor. The walls inside were the same strange mix of metal and organic material. "Hello," Tai-Ho called out, knowing no one would hear him through the vacuum of space. He pulled himself inside and activated the magnetic boots of his suit. With a soft click, he was standing on what he hoped was the floor of the ship. The artificial gravity was off, but at least he could walk instead of float. The air inside the ship was thin but breathable, according to his suit sensors. After a quick check, Tai-Ho removed his helmet, sniffing cautiously. The air smelled stale with a hint of something sweet, like overripe fruit. As he moved deeper into the ship, Tai-Ho noticed that some systems were still working. Lights flickered on as he passed, and some screens showed symbols he didn't understand. The design of everything was curved and flowing, not like the sharp angles of human ships. "What kind of aliens built you?" he whispered, running his hand along a wall that felt warm to the touch. He took pictures with his suit camera as he explored. The company would want this data, even if they punished him for boarding without permission. A ship like this could be worth millions if its technology could be understood. As Tai-Ho moved toward what he guessed was the center of the ship, he found more signs of trouble. There were scorch marks on some walls, and in one room, he found broken equipment scattered across the floor. Whatever happened here, the crew had left in a hurry. Or maybe they hadn't left at all. That thought made Tai-Ho pause. He should go back to his ship and wait for backup. This was too strange, too dangerous. But then he heard it, a sound that didn't belong on an abandoned ship, a rhythmic noise coming from somewhere ahead, like something heavy being dragged back and forth. Thump, scrape, thump, scrape. Tai-Ho checked his laser cutter, making sure it was ready if he needed it. Then, following the strange sound, he moved toward the back of the ship where the engines would be. The sound grew louder. Thump, scrape, thump, scrape. Tai-Ho's heart beat faster as he reached a large door, marked with symbols that glowed blue. The sounds were coming from inside. Taking a deep breath, he pressed his hand to the door panel. It recognized his touch, surprisingly, and slid open with a soft hiss. What Tai-Ho saw inside made him gasp. Tai-Ho stood frozen in the doorway. The engine room was huge, filled with strange machines that hummed with power. In the center was a glowing blue core that pulsed like a heart. But that wasn't what made Taiho gasp. Chained to the power core was a creature unlike anything he had ever seen. It looked a bit like a dog, but much bigger, about the size of a small horse. It had 6 legs instead of 4, each ending with sharp claws that could retract like a cat's. Its skin wasn't covered with fur, but instead had a smooth surface that glowed with faint blue and green patterns. The creature's head had 4 eyes with strange up and down pupils, and its mouth had 2 rows of teeth. The chain around its neck was thick and made of the same metal organic material as the ship. The creature pulled against it again and again, making the thumping and scraping sounds Taiho had heard. Thump, scrape, thump, scrape. When the creature saw Taiho, it stopped pulling. All 4 eyes locked onto him. Taiho's hand tightened on his laser cutter, ready to defend himself. But the creature didn't attack. Instead, it made a soft whining sound and lay down on the floor, watching him. "What are you?" Taiho whispered. He stepped closer, keeping his eyes on the creature. It was thin, too thin. Its sides were sunken in, and some of the glowing patterns on its skin were dim. Taiho had grown up with dogs on Earth, and he knew what a starving animal looked like. Someone had left this creature here to die. Taiho looked around the engine room and spotted containers near a wall. He walked over, keeping one eye on the creature, and opened one. Inside was a thick purple liquid that smelled sweet. He dipped his finger in it, and the liquid tingled on his skin. "Is this your food?" he asked. The creature's 4 eyes followed his every move. Its long tail thumped once against the floor. Taiho took the container and approached slowly. The creature watched him, but didn't move. When he was about 2 meters away, he set the container down and pushed it toward the creature with his foot. Quick as lightning, the creature stretched out one of its front legs, much longer than Taiho thought possible, and pulled the container close. It drank the purple liquid in 3 large gulps, then looked up at Taiho again. Its eyes now glowed a bit brighter. "You were starving, weren't you?" Taiho said softly. "Who left you here?" The creature made a sound that was part growl, part whine. It stood up on its 6 legs, and then did something that sent a chill down Taiho's spine. It sat back on its hind legs, raised its front 4 legs, and made shapes in the air, almost like it was trying to draw something. "You're trying to talk to me?" Taiho asked in shock. The creature dropped back to all 6 legs and nodded its head once, very clearly. This was no ordinary animal. This was something intelligent. Taiho moved closer and looked at the chain. It was attached to a control panel next to the power core. There were symbols on the panel similar to the ones he had seen throughout the ship. "Let me see if I can free you," he said. The creature stood still as Taiho examined the lock. It was complex, but he was a mechanic. Figuring out how things worked was his job. After a few minutes of studying the panel, he pressed a sequence of symbols. Nothing happened. The creature made another sound, then used one claw to point at a different symbol on the panel, one Taiho had missed. "You know how this works?" Taiho asked in surprise. He pressed the symbol the creature had pointed to, then tried his sequence again. This time, there was a soft click, and the chain fell away from the creature's neck. For a moment, neither of them moved. The creature stood free, much larger and stronger than Taiho now, that it was standing at its full height. Its claws could easily tear through his suit. Then the creature did something unexpected. It lowered its head and gently pressed it against Taiho's chest, making a soft, rumbling sound. "You're welcome," Taiho said, carefully patting its head. Suddenly, red lights began flashing throughout the engine room. A loud alarm started to blare, and symbols on all the screens began to change rapidly. The creature's head snapped up, its eyes wide with what looked like fear. "What's happening?" Taiho asked. The creature nudged him hard toward the door, urgency in every movement. Something was very wrong. Taeho stood frozen in the doorway. The engine room was huge, filled with strange machines that hummed with power. In the center was a glowing blue core that pulsed like a heart. But that wasn't what made Taeho gasp. Chained to the power core was a creature unlike anything he had ever seen. It looked a bit like a dog, but much bigger, about the size of a small horse. It had 6 legs instead of 4, each ending with sharp claws that could retract like a cat's. Its skin wasn't covered with fur, but instead had a smooth surface that glowed with faint blue and green patterns. The creature's head had 4 eyes with strange up and down pupils, and its mouth had 2 rows of teeth. The chain around its neck was thick and made of the same metal organic material as the ship. The creature pulled against it again and again, making the thumping and scraping sounds Taeho had heard. Thump, scrape, thump, scrape. When the creature saw Taeho, it stopped pulling. All 4 eyes locked onto him. Taeho's hand tightened on his laser cutter, ready to defend himself. But the creature didn't attack. Instead, it made a soft whining sound and lay down on the floor, watching him. "What are you?" Taeho whispered. He stepped closer, keeping his eyes on the creature. It was thin, too thin. Its sides were sunken in, and some of the glowing patterns on its skin were dim. Taeho had grown up with dogs on Earth, and he knew what a starving animal looked like. Someone had left this creature here to die. Taeho looked around the engine room and spotted containers near a wall. He walked over, keeping one eye on the creature, and opened one. Inside was a thick purple liquid that smelled sweet. He dipped his finger in it, and the liquid tingled on his skin. "Is this your food?" he asked. The creature's 4 eyes followed his every move. Its long tail thumped once against the floor. Taeho took the container and approached slowly. The creature watched him, but didn't move. When he was about 2 meters away, he set the container down and pushed it toward the creature with his foot. Quick as lightning, the creature stretched out one of its front legs, much longer than Taeho thought possible, and pulled the container close. It drank the purple liquid in 3 large gulps, then looked up at Taeho again. Its eyes now glowed a bit brighter. "You were starving, weren't you?" Taeho said softly. "Who left you here?" The creature made a sound that was part growl, part whine. It stood up on its 6 legs and then did something that sent a chill down Taeho's spine. It sat back on its hind legs, raised its front 4 legs, and made shapes in the air, almost like it was trying to draw something. "You're trying to talk to me?" Taeho asked in shock. The creature dropped back to all 6 legs and nodded its head once, very clearly. This was no ordinary animal. This was something intelligent. Taeho moved closer and looked at the chain. It was attached to a control panel next to the power core. There were symbols on the panel similar to the ones he had seen throughout the ship. "Let me see if I can free you," he said. The creature stood still as Taeho examined the lock. It was complex, but he was a mechanic. Figuring out how things worked was his job. After a few minutes of studying the panel, he pressed a sequence of symbols. Nothing happened. The creature made another sound, then used one claw to point at a different symbol on the panel, one Taeho had missed. "You know how this works?" Taeho asked in surprise. He pressed the symbol the creature had pointed to, then tried his sequence again. This time there was a soft click, and the chain fell away from the creature's neck. For a moment, neither of them moved. The creature stood free, much larger and stronger than Taeho now that it was standing at its full height. Its claws could easily tear through his suit. Then the creature did something unexpected. It lowered its head and gently pressed it against Taeho's chest, making a soft, rumbling sound. "You're welcome," Taeho said, carefully patting its head. Suddenly, red lights began flashing throughout the engine room. A loud alarm started to blare, and symbols on all the screens began to change rapidly. The creature's head snapped up, its eyes wide with what looked like fear. "What's happening?" Taeho asked. The creature nudged him hard toward the door, urgency in every movement. Something was very wrong. 3 days later, Tai-Ho's ship landed at his home base on Titan, Saturn's largest moon. During the journey, he had learned more about his unusual passenger. The creature ate the emergency rations from the ship, but seemed to prefer the purple liquid. Tai-Ho had brought several containers of it before they escaped. It slept curled up in a ball, all 6 legs tucked under its body. Its skin patterns glowed softly in the dark, giving the cabin a gentle blue light. Most importantly, the creature was smart, very smart. It watched everything Tai-Ho did with careful attention. By the second day, it could press specific buttons on the control panel when Tai-Ho pointed to them. It learned quickly. Tai-Ho had decided to call it Duri, which meant two in Korean. The name seemed right because of the creature's dual nature, both animal and something more. "We're home, Duri," Tai-Ho said as they landed. "But I need to be careful. My boss will not be happy about you." Duri made a soft, rumbling sound that Tai-Ho had come to recognize as understanding. Tai-Ho lived in a small apartment in the workers' section of Titan Base. The base was built under a dome that protected it from Titan's harsh atmosphere. He had a friend who might help with Duri, Ji-Soo Park, a xenobiologist who studied alien life forms. "Let me call her," Tai-Ho said to Duri. "She'll know what to do." An hour later, there was a knock at Tai-Ho's door. He opened it to find Ji-Soo, a short woman with bright eyes and a serious face. "This better be good, Tai-Ho," she said as she entered. "I was in the middle off." She stopped when she saw Duri sitting in the middle of the room. Her mouth fell open. What is that?" she whispered. "This is Duri," Tai-Ho said. "I found him on the alien ship. He was chained up, starving. I couldn't leave him there." Ji-Soo approached Duri slowly. The creature watched her but didn't move. "May I?" she asked, looking at Tai-Ho. "Ask him, not me," Tai-Ho replied. Ji-Soo turned to Duri. "Hello, I'm Ji-Soo. Can I look at you closer?" Duri tilted his head, then nodded once. Ji-Soo gasped. "It understands speech," she said. "He's very smart," Tai-Ho explained. "And getting smarter every day." Ji-Soo took out a small scanner from her bag and began to examine Duri. The creature stayed still, watching her work with curious eyes. "This is amazing," Ji-Soo said after several minutes. "His DNA, if you can call it that, is unlike anything in our database. And look at this." She showed Tai-Ho the scanner screen. It displayed an image of Duri's brain, which glowed with activity. "His brain has structures similar to data storage systems," Ji-Soo explained. "It's like he has computers built into his head." "What does that mean?" Tai-Ho asked. "It means," Ji-Soo said slowly, "that your Duri isn't just an alien pet. He's something created, engineered." She tapped on her scanner again. "There are records of a species called the Hwaran. They were advanced aliens who disappeared about 300 years ago. Their technology was part biological, part mechanical, just like Duri, just like that ship you found." Duri stood up suddenly. His skin patterns changed from blue to a bright gold color. He walked to Ji-Soo's scanner and tapped it with one claw. "He wants to see," Tai-Ho said. Ji-Soo held the scanner so Duri could see the screen. The creature stared at the information about the Hwaran for a long time. Then he did something that shocked both humans. Duri's skin patterns shifted again, and suddenly, an image appeared above him like a hologram. It showed tall, elegant beings with 4 arms and glowing skin. They worked in a laboratory around something that looked like a smaller version of Duri. "He's showing us the Hwaran," Ji-Soo whispered. "He's showing us his creators." The hologram changed to show a star map, then images of battles in space, then the Hwaran running, hiding. "They were running from something," Tai-Ho said. "And they created Duri, too." "To what?" "Protect them." Duri lowered his head. The hologram disappeared. He looked tired. Ji-Soo checked her scanner again. That took a lot of energy. He needs rest. And food. Tai-ho knelt beside Dury and gently stroked his head. Rest now. You're safe here. As Dury curled up to sleep, Jisoo pulled Tai-ho aside. This is bigger than us, Tai-ho, she said quietly. Dury isn't just a strange alien dog you rescued. He's carrying the knowledge of an entire lost civilization. And if anyone finds out what he can do, no one will take him, Tai-ho said firmly. I promised him he's safe with me. But even as he said it, Tai-ho wondered if that was a promise he could keep. The next morning, Tai-ho woke to the sound of his communication device beeping loudly. He stumbled out of bed and checked the message. It was from his boss. Kim, get to the main office now. Big trouble. Tai-ho looked at Dury, who was awake and watching him with all four eyes. I have to go see my boss, Tai-ho told him. Stay here. Stay quiet. Jisoo will come check on you later. Dury made a soft sound and nodded. He seemed to understand the need for secrecy. Tai-ho hurried to the main office of the Seoul Orbital Reclamation Company. When he arrived, he found his boss, Mr. Du, talking to a tall woman in a black uniform. She had metal parts on her face, a cybernetic eye and jaw. Her name tag read Captain Ha-won. There he is, Mr. Du said when he saw Tai-ho. This is the mechanic who found the alien ship. Captain Ha-won turned to look at Tai-ho. Her cybernetic eye made a soft whirring sound as it focused on him. Tai-ho Kim, she said in a cold voice. I am Captain Ha-won of the Sun Min Corporation Security Division. You entered a restricted research vessel 3 days ago. Tai-ho's heart began to race. Research vessel. It looked abandoned. It was not abandoned, Captain Ha-won said. It was part of a classified project. Our tracking systems show that you boarded the vessel before it self-destructed. She stepped closer to Tai-ho. Did you remove anything from that ship? Tai-ho thought of Dury waiting in his apartment. No, he lied. I barely had time to look around before the alarm started. Captain Ha-won's cybernetic eye glowed red. Our scans detected 2 life forms leaving the vessel. 1 human, 1 unknown. Mr. Du looked shocked. Kim, what did you bring back? Nothing, Tai-ho insisted. Your scans must be wrong. Captain Ha-won pulled out a tablet and showed Tai-ho an image. It was blurry, but clearly showed his work ship with something large and 6-legged moving inside it. The alien asset you removed is dangerous and valuable, she said. It belongs to the Sun Min Corporation. Tell us where it is, and we might forget your theft. I don't know what you're talking about, Tai-ho said, trying to keep his voice steady. Captain Ha-won's face hardened. Very well. I have authorization to search all areas of this base. We will find what you took. She turned to Mr. Du. Have your security team meet my soldiers at the main dock in 1 hour. We begin our search then. After they left, Tai-ho ran back to his apartment. He had to warn Jisoo and figure out what to do with Dury. But when he reached his door, he found it slightly open. Dury? He called softly as he entered. The apartment was empty. On the floor was a message written in strange symbols that glowed blue. Next to it was Jisoo's communication device. Tai-ho picked it up and found a voice message waiting. Tai-ho, it's Jisoo, her voice said, sounding scared. Dury sensed something. He became very agitated and started drawing these symbols. Then he projected a hologram of a big ship landing at the base. He says they're coming for him. We're heading to my research vessel. Meet us at dock number 7. Hurry. Tai-ho grabbed his emergency bag and ran toward the docks. As he rounded a corner, he saw a group of soldiers in black uniforms. They had large guns and scanner devices. Captain Ha-won was giving them orders. The asset has data storage organs containing valuable research, she was saying. It must be captured alive. Use stun weapons only. Tai-ho ducked back around the corner before they saw him. He took a different route to Dock 7, keeping to smaller corridors where he wouldn't be noticed. When he reached Dock 7, He found Jisoo's small research ship ready for launch. Jisoo was at the controls, looking nervous. "Where's Dury?" Taiho asked as he climbed aboard. A soft rumble came from behind him. Taiho turned to see Dury emerge from a storage compartment. The creature's skin patterns were flashing red and orange in what Taiho now recognized as a warning. "He knows these people," Jisoo said. "He showed me more images. The Sun Min Corporation found the Hwaran ship years ago. They've been studying the technology, trying to use it." "Using it for what?" Taiho asked. Before Jisoo could answer, alarms began to sound throughout the base. "Attention all personnel," Captain Howon's voice announced over the speakers. "We are searching for a dangerous alien specimen. Report any sightings immediately." "We need to go now," Jisoo said, starting the ship's engines. Dury moved to Taiho's side and placed one claw on his arm. His eyes seemed to ask a question. "Yes," Taiho said, placing his hand on Dury's head. "We're going together. I won't let them take you." Jisoo's research ship shot away from Titan Base. Alarms blared behind them, and angry voices shouted over the radio. Jisoo turned it off. "They can't catch us now," she said, looking at the controls. "This ship is fast." Taiho wasn't so sure. Captain Howon doesn't seem like someone who gives up easily. Dury moved to the front of the ship. He looked out at the stars, then placed a claw on the navigation screen. His skin patterns changed to show what looked like a map of space. "What is he doing?" Jisoo asked. "I think he wants to show us where to go," Taiho said. Dury nodded and pressed specific points on the screen. The ship's computer beeped as it accepted the new course. "These are coordinates for the outer asteroid belt," Jisoo said, looking surprised. "But there's nothing out there." Dury made a soft, rumbling sound and his skin flashed blue. "I think he's saying there is something out there," Taiho said. "Something hidden." Jisoo hesitated, then nodded. "I trust you, and I trust him. Let's go." She set the ship on the course Dury had indicated. As they flew farther from Saturn, Taiho watched the radar screen. There was no sign of pursuit yet, but he felt sure it would come. After an hour of flying, Dury became more active. He moved around the small ship, checking systems and occasionally making adjustments to the course. Then something amazing happened. Dury sat in the center of the cabin. His skin patterns shifted until they formed shapes that looked like words. Not in any human language, but shapes that somehow made sense to Taiho. "He's trying to talk to us," Taiho said. "It's more than that," Jisoo replied, her eyes wide. "I think he's connected to the ship's computer somehow. Look." The screen on the control panel showed the same shapes that were on Dury's skin. Then they changed to Korean letters. "Hello," the words read. "I can speak now. Ship helps." Taiho stared in amazement. "Dury, you can understand us?" "Yes," appeared on the screen. "Learning your language since you saved me. Now ship computer helps translate." "That's incredible," Jisoo said. "Dury, what are you? Who made you?" Dury's skin patterns shifted again. "I am Guardian, made by Hwaran to protect, to save knowledge when danger came." "What danger?" Taiho asked. Before Dury could answer, the radar beeped loudly. A large ship had appeared behind them, moving fast. "Sun Min ship," the screen showed. They followed. "They want me back." Jisoo pushed the engines harder. "Can we outrun them?" "No," Dury's message read. "But we can hide. Go there." The screen showed a new course, heading straight for a dense field of asteroids. "That's too dangerous," Taiho said. "We'll crash." "Trust me," Dury's message said. "I know way." Jisoo looked at Taiho. He nodded, and she turned the ship toward the asteroids. The pursuing ship gained on them. The radio crackled to life. "Research Vessel Delta, this is Captain Howon of the Sun Min Corporation," came the cold voice. "Return the alien asset immediately, or we will disable your ship." "Ignore," Duri's message said, "Enter asteroid field now." Jisoo guided the ship into the swarm of space rocks. Some were small, others larger than their ship. They spun and tumbled in all directions. Normal navigation was impossible here. "Duri, we can't," Taeho began. But Duri had moved to the control panel. His claws flew over the buttons, taking control of the ship. He guided them through the asteroids with impossible precision, as if he knew exactly where each rock would be. Behind them, the Sun Min ship hesitated at the edge of the field. It was too big to follow the same path. "They will go around." Duri's message read, "We must hurry." "Hurry where?" Jisoo asked. Her question was answered when a large asteroid ahead of them suddenly changed. Part of its surface slid open, revealing the hidden entrance. "There," Duri's message said. "Safe place." Taeho and Jisoo exchanged amazed looks as Duri guided their ship into the secret doorway. As soon as they were inside, the asteroid closed behind them, hiding them completely from view. Inside was a tunnel lit with the same blue-green light that Duri's skin produced. The tunnel led deeper into the asteroid. "What is this place?" Taeho asked in wonder. Duri's answer appeared on the screen. "Home." Their ship moved slowly through the tunnel inside the asteroid. The walls glowed with soft blue-green light, just like Duri's skin patterns. After about 5 minutes, the tunnel opened into a huge hollow space inside the asteroid. Taeho and Jisoo gasped. Before them was a hidden space station. It was built into the walls of the asteroid's interior. The architecture was similar to the ship where Taeho had found Duri, curved and flowing, part metal and part living material. "What is this place?" Jisoo asked, her voice barely a whisper. Duri's answer appeared on the screen. "Last sanctuary of Hwaran, hidden from enemies." The ship docked at a small platform. When the doors opened, the air inside smelled fresh and clean, with the same sweet scent Taeho had noticed on the Hwaran ship. "Is it safe to breathe?" Taeho asked. "Yes," Duri's message said. "Air made for Hwaran. Safe for humans too." They stepped out of the ship. Duri moved with purpose, leading them through glowing corridors. The whole station hummed with quiet energy, as if it had been waiting for their arrival. "Are there other Hwaran here?" Jisoo asked. Duri's skin patterns shifted to form the word yes directly on his body, then changed back to his normal patterns. He seemed more comfortable communicating this way now that they were inside the station. They entered a large round room. In the center was a circle of 12 tall, tube-like structures. Each tube was filled with a clear liquid that glowed softly, and floating inside each tube was a tall, thin being. "The Hwaran," Taeho said. The beings looked peaceful, as if sleeping. They had 4 arms and smooth skin that glowed with patterns similar to Duri's. Their faces were delicate, with large eyes currently closed. Duri moved to a control panel near the tubes. His skin formed words again. "Last survivors. In sleep state. Waiting." "Waiting for what?" Jisoo asked. "Waiting for safe time." Duri's skin displayed. "Hiding from void convergence." "What is the void convergence?" Taeho asked. Duri's patterns shifted to show a dark, cloud-like shape with many eyes. The image was disturbing, somehow wrong in a way Taeho couldn't explain. "Enemy." Duri's skin showed. "Hunts advanced minds. Takes over. Spreads." Jisoo moved closer to one of the tubes, studying the sleeping Hwaran. They were running from this void convergence. Is that why they built this hidden station? Yes, Duri displayed. 300 years ago, void convergence came to Hwaran worlds. Took many. Turned them against others. He moved to another panel and touched it with his claw. A hologram appeared in the center of the room, showing beautiful planets and advanced cities. Then darkness spread across them. The cities fell. Ships flood. "Hwaran ran," Duri continued. "Last ship carried these 12. Last hope. Ship attacked before reaching sanctuary. Captain sent me away with ship set to destroy if wrong beings found it. And I found you instead, Taiho said. Yes, Duri's patterns showed. You free me. You good heart. You bring me home. Taiho felt a lump in his throat. He reached out and patted Duri's head. You're welcome. But why was that corporation after you? How did they find the Waran ship? Duri's patterns darkened. Sunmen found damage. Waran scout ship 10 years ago. Learned some technology. Found some records. Learned about me, about Sanctuary. Tracked main ship. Captured me. Tried to make me tell location of Sanctuary. That's why you were chained to the power core, Jisoo said. They were trying to force information from you. Yes, Duri showed. I resist. They cannot break my mind. But they put devices on their ships. Devices from void convergence technology they found. Taiho felt cold. Are you saying the Sunmin Corporation is working with this void convergence? Not working with. Duri's patterns formed. Not no danger. Think just technology. But devices can call void convergence, can open door. The station suddenly hummed louder. Lights flashed on all the panels. What's happening? Jisoo asked. Duri's patterns shifted rapidly. Sunmin ship found us. Using void technology to scan asteroid. We'll break through soon. What can we do? Taiho asked. Duri moved to the center of the room, between the sleeping Waran. His skin glowed brighter than before. Must wake masters, his pattern showed. Time to fight has come. Duri's claws moved quickly over the control panels. The tubes containing the sleeping Waran began to glow brighter. The clear liquid inside started to drain away. Can you really wake them? Taiho asked. After 300 years. Yes, Duri's skin showed. Sleep is special. Bodies do not age. Minds stay safe. Jisoo studied the control panels. The technology here is amazing. It's like nothing humans have created. I can help, Taiho said to Duri. Tell me what to do. I'm good with machines. Duri nodded. His skin showed images of different controls, then words. Need power increase. Adjust blue panel. Need air mix change. Adjust green panel. Taiho moved to the blue panel and began working with the controls. They were strange, but he could understand their basic function. Jisoo worked on the green panel, using her knowledge of biology to adjust the air mixture. As they worked, the station shook slightly. They're trying to break in, Jisoo said. Hurry, Duri's patterns showed. The liquid in the tubes was almost gone now. The sleeping Waran began to move, just small twitches at first. Their skin patterns, which had been dim, started to glow brighter. Taiho finished the power adjustments. Done. What else? Before Duri could answer, one of the tubes opened with a soft hiss. A tall Waran stepped out, unsteady on its feet. It was even taller than Taiho had thought, nearly 2.5 meters high. Its 4 arms reached out for balance. Its large eyes opened, revealing pupils that glowed with an inner light. The Waran looked around confused. Then it saw Duri and made a musical sound. Duri responded with a similar sound, and his skin patterns matched those of the Waran. They're talking, Jisoo whispered. More tubes opened. Soon, all 12 Waran were awake, standing in a circle, making musical sounds to each other and to Duri. Their skin patterns flashed rapidly. They're confused. Duri's skin showed to the humans. Afraid. Expected to sleep longer. The tallest Waran turned to look at Taiho and Jisoo. Its eyes widened in surprise. It spoke to Duri again. Explaining about humans. Duri displayed. Explaining how you saved me. The tall Waran approached Taiho. It was thin but had an elegant strength in its movements. It reached out with one hand and touched Taiho's forehead gently. Suddenly, Taiho felt a strange sensation, like cool water flowing through his mind. Images flashed in his thoughts. Stars, planets, beautiful cities. The darkness coming. Fear, flight, hope. The Huayran pulled its hand away. It made sounds that somehow Tahoe now understood. Thank you for saving our guardian. My name is. The sound was complex, impossible for a human to pronounce. I will use a name you can say. The Huayran continued. Call me Yuri. You can speak our language now. Tahoe asked in amazement. I took it from your mind, Yuri said. A simple skill for us. It does not harm you. The station shook again, harder this time. The hunters have found us, Yuri said. We must prepare. Yuri turned to the other Huayran and spoke rapidly in their musical language. They moved quickly to different parts of the room, activating controls and panels that had been dark before. What are they doing? Jisoo asked. Preparing defenses. Yuri's skin showed. Station has weapons. Shields. Yuri returned to Tahoe and Jisoo. The station's defenses have been sleeping too long. They may not work properly. Another shake, stronger than before. They're cutting through the asteroid, Tahoe said. Yuri looked at him closely. You have strong mind patterns. All humans do. Very different from other species. What do you mean? Tahoe asked. Your brains, Yuri said. They resist outside control. The void convergence cannot easily take human minds. Is that important? Jisoo asked. Very, Yuri replied. It is why the void hunters have not found your worlds yet. Humans are naturally protected. A loud alarm sounded throughout the station. One of the other Huayran called out to Yuri. They are through the outer shell, Yuri said. They come with machines that carry void influence. We are still weak from sleep. Yuri touched Tahoe's shoulder with one hand and Jisoo's with another. Will you help us fight? Yuri asked. You saved our guardian. Will you now save us? Tahoe looked at Yuri, then at the desperate Huayran. He nodded. Yes, he said. Tell us what to do. The walls of the station vibrated as the Sun Min Corporation's ship forced its way inside. Yuri led Tahoe, Jisoo, and Yuri to a control room where the other Huayran were working quickly. Here, Yuri said, pointing to a strange helmet. This will help you see what we see. Tahoe put on the helmet. Immediately, his vision changed. He could see energy flows, like colored rivers in the air. Some were bright and clean. Others were dark and wrong. The dark energy is void influence, Yuri explained. It comes from devices on their ships. How do we stop it? Tahoe asked. You must find the devices and shut them down, Yuri said. Your human mind can resist the void's confusion. We cannot get close without being affected. A loud crash echoed through the station. The Sun Min forces had broken through. They're inside, Jisoo said, fear in her voice. Yuri handed Tahoe a small tool that looked like a pen. This will disable the void devices, but you must get close to them. Yuri moved to Tahoe's side. I go with you. His skin patterns showed. I can fight. Tahoe nodded. Jisoo, stay here and help the Huayran. Jisoo looked like she wanted to argue, but nodded. Be careful. Tahoe and Yuri moved through the station toward the sounds of intruders. With the helmet, Tahoe could see dark energy flowing ahead. They hid behind a wall as the first group of Sun Min soldiers walked past. Each soldier carried a small black box on their belt. The boxes leaked dark energy. Those are the devices, Tahoe whispered to Yuri. Captain Hawan walked behind the soldiers. Her cybernetic parts glowed with the same dark energy. She seemed different now, her movements stiff, her eyes empty. She's already affected, Tahoe realized. When the group passed, Tahoe and Yuri followed quietly. They needed to get close enough to use the disabling tool. In a large room, the soldiers set up equipment. The dark energy grew stronger, forming a cloud above them. Captain Hawan spoke, but her voice sounded wrong, as if someone else was using her mouth. The void comes, she said. It hungers for the knowledge here. Tahoe looked at Yuri. We need a distraction. Dury nodded. Without warning, he leaped into the room, his skin flashing bright red. The soldiers turned, raising their weapons. Dury moved with incredible speed, jumping over them, drawing their fire away from the door. Tai-Ho used the chance to slip into the room. He moved quickly to the nearest soldier and pressed the tool against the black box on the man's belt. The box sparked and went dark. The soldier blinked, looking confused, as if waking from a dream. Tai-Ho moved to the next soldier, then the next. Each time, the dark energy around them faded. Captain Ha-1 saw what was happening and turned toward Tai-Ho. "Stop," she shouted, her voice still wrong. She raised her weapon. Dury leaped between them, his skin now forming a glowing shield. The shot from Ha-1's weapon hit the shield and bounced back, hitting the main equipment the soldiers had set up. It exploded in a burst of dark energy. The explosion knocked everyone down. When Tai-Ho looked up, the dark cloud was gone. Captain Ha-1 lay on the floor, her cybernetic parts no longer glowing dark. The soldiers were sitting up, looking confused. "What? Where am I?" Captain Ha-1 asked, her voice normal now. "What's happening?" Tai-Ho stood up. "You were being controlled by something called the Void Convergence." Dury moved to Tai-Ho's side, no longer aggressive. Yuri and the other Hwa-Ren entered the room, followed by Jisoo. Captain Ha-1 stared at the tall aliens. "What are they?" "They're the Hwa-Ren," Tai-Ho explained. "The creators of the technology your company found. They'd been hiding from the Void Convergence for 300 years. Yuri stepped forward. "The devices you brought here were dangerous. They could have opened a way for the Void to enter this system." Captain Ha-1 slowly stood up. "We didn't know. We thought they were just advanced scanners." "There is much you don't know," Yuri said. "Much we can teach you, if you are willing to listen instead of take." 3 months later, Tai-Ho stood on the observation deck of the newly renamed Alliance Station. The former hiding place of the Hwa-Ren was now a center for cooperation between humans and the ancient aliens. Captain Ha-1, now Ambassador Ha-1, had helped convince the Sun Min Corporation and Earth governments of the Void threat. Together, they were studying safe Hwa-Ren technology and preparing defenses. "Thinking about how much has changed?" Jisoo asked, joining Tai-Ho at the window. "Just thinking how it all started," Tai-Ho replied, with a mechanic and what he thought was just an alien dog. Dury and Yuri entered the room. Dury's skin patterns showed happiness when he saw Tai-Ho. He was no longer just a guardian but recognized as a person with rights of his own. "The first human Hwa-Ren joint ship is ready for testing," Yuri announced. "We would like you to be its mechanic, Tai-Ho." Tai-Ho smiled. "As long as Dury can come too." Dury moved to Tai-Ho's side and pressed his head against Tai-Ho's hand. Always, his skin patterns showed. Friends forever. Tai-Ho looked out at the stars. What had started as a simple rescue had changed the future for 2 species. And somewhere out there, the Void Convergence waited. But now, they would face it together.